I don't think there's been a single day over the past 7 years where I haven't thought about the show. So is that taxing? No. But it's certainly all-consuming. I still don't think I've fully processed the fact that people are watching. And I don't think I ever want to. Because I think part of the joy of experiencing this has just been the fact that it has felt quite small. For 3 months, we are in Toronto, making this show completely by ourselves. It's funny because I feel like the show sort of took a turn in terms of the level of notoriety that it achieved within the past year. And I remember people asking me, do you feel the weight of people's expectations when you're writing a last season? And I was like, well, fortunately, we've already written it. So it couldn't have come at a better time. Because, you know, when the New York Times is writing about your show and in such a positive way, it was like, what is going on here? It's insane.
Eugene Levy and his son Dan
are joining me now.
The creator and star of
my favorite show of all time,
Schitt's Creek.
Eugene and Dan Levy just announced that the show will be back for season 6. But guess what? Then that is it.
Schitt's Creek has slowly become one of the most beloved sitcoms in North America. But after 6 seasons, 80 episodes, and 4 Emmy nominations, the cast of this unlikely hit series is preparing to say goodbye.
We're bowing out on their schedule, not something that has always been easy to do in the TV business.
Did you guys feel the earth sort of shift earlier when you announced that the show was coming to an end?
Last season of Schitt's Creek.
Don't you want to do another season, please?
How are we ending the show now?
Why are you ending this thing? This is like a perfect show with a perfect cast at the perfect time.
We are 3 weeks into what we call like an idea incubator, which is when we get all our writers together and really just talk about what we want from our season and where we want our characters to end up. It's just a bit different this year because it's a bigger conversation when you're talking about where do you want your characters to end up for the rest of their lives. A little bit more pressure. So, where did we leave off?
Act 2.
That last episode is about the fans. If we've done our job okay, then I think we should be set up to wrap this show up in a really special way.
I do remember when the idea first sparked, and I remember Daniel driving over to my parents' house, writing the pilot presentation.
I came to him with the idea of exploring what it would look like for a wealthy family to lose their money.
It was really quite simple. I mean, he just said, would you be interested in working with me on developing a TV show? And that set my heart to palpitating.
I didn't have any idea what I was doing. So he was very legitimate in being scared.
What would happen on camera was still a bit of an unknown. I'd certainly seen him on MTV. I knew that he was great on camera. He had a great presence. But could he handle a scripted half-hour show? Still didn't know.
I'd seen the rich people lose their money concept played out in sitcoms, but I'd never seen it articulated through a slightly more sophisticated comedic lens.
He wanted the same sensibility that Chris Guest and I had put into our movies, which is good character-based comedy, good grounded stuff. You want an emotional investment in the characters.
We worked on just backstory for weeks. What? To the point where I was sort of like, Dad, can we just like move on? And he was like, no, we can't move on until we know exactly who these people are. Good morning. Happy first day.
If I could just gather anybody that's outside in the peripherals to step in for a moment, we could just give the floor to Eugene. Thank you, everyone.
Hi, everybody. I just wanted to say this morning, of course, is kind of monumental in a way because it's our very first shooting day of our very last season.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. We have 14 episodes to wrap this shit up, so let's make it worthwhile, let's have fun, and let's give it our all.
When we finally put it together and realized this is the show, it seemed like, you know, it had good bones, as they say. But when we finally cast it, that was really when we realized, wow, we're onto something really good here.
My dad had asked Catherine to be a part of the presentation pilot.
She's always like a first choice. She was a first choice with the movies that Chris and I did. I mean, #1 name. Let's get Catherine.
She had said yes, conditionally.
It's just 15 minutes, and then, you know, if it sells, even if it sells, you know, I won't bug you about doing the role.
And then the show got bought, and we had to go back to her and say, remember that show that we shot that was 14 minutes? Do you want to do that now for 13 episodes?
No, I don't think so. I'm kind of busy doing nothing.
I said, call her back. Tell her, let's just look at 1 year. We'll go 1 year at a time. And if it's not going to work, it's not going to work. And he called her, and she said yes. And the rest is history.
So stupid. Really, it's lame to talk about not wanting to do it at the beginning. Because how stupid would I have been not to have done it?
You ready for the first shot of season 6? Game on.
And action.
Alexis! Your father and I are going to meet for a celebratory lunch when he's done at the bank.
Alexis was a character that we had a hard time casting. We must have seen 100 people.
I was in LA for pilot season, and things leading up to that point had not been going great. Feeling rusty? Yes. I hadn't worked in over 2 years. The universe was really screaming in my ear, like, this is not for you. And literally the next day, I got an email for an audition for a show called Schitt's Creek.
Hi, my name is Annie Murphy.
Annie came in, and she wasn't really made up, and she had a bun in her hair, and she walked in with this sort of casual nonchalance.
Wow.
And I called my dad after the audition, and I said, I think we have something here. So we brought her out for the test, and she came into the room, and it was magic.
Twyla? I didn't know that you two were... Did you want to come in? I was just about to make some tea. No.
My life just changed in that moment in a really, really big way.
Dustin Milligan, a friend of mine, you know, we sort of knew each other through the Canadian circles in LA. His name was Dan Levy. And he said, there's this show that's going. And in my head, I was like, whoa, am I about to get offered a role? And then it was like, for you to audition for this role. And I was like, okay, got it. Cool.
Okay, just relax. If it's a heart attack, you're way too far from the hospital to make it through the night.
What? Kidding.
When the breakdown finally arrived, you know, I saw the names, Levy and O'Hara, and the nerves just kind of take over, and then the work ethic takes over, and yeah, I think I managed to put all that aside. Hey, come in different colors, princess. Orange is the new orange.
I got a call from my agent, and at the time, I was getting like audition anxiety to the point of like, if I walked in an audition room, I would break out in hives, like full body hives. And so I told my US agent, I'm like, I can't audition anymore. I'll put myself on tape. And he dropped me. And that's fair. I totally get it. But then my Canadian agent kept me, and she's like, just go in, they're Canadian, they're nice.
Emily Hampshire?
I just remember, this is so dumb, and I hope I didn't do this. I hope this is like a dream that didn't actually happen. I just remember rotary dialing an imaginary phone. That happened.
What the hell is this?
The downside.
my agent called and said, hey, there's a show that's being cast out of Toronto and it's called Schitt's Creek. And I'm like, what did you just say? Because I was like, there's no show called Schitt's Creek that's going to be on Canadian television.
Sarah was in the pilot as Twyla, but it was a different version of Twyla.
She was very nerdy and introverted, and there was a sadness to her.
We do manicures. Her salon is called Lucky Nail.
The transition between that and the Twyla that exists now is just such a sunnier woman, just this little ray of sunshine.
Cheetah?
The day before I found out I got part of Jocelyn, I filled out an online application to stock the shelves at Petco, but you needed to operate a forklift. And I thought that was a bad idea in general.
Hi, Patrick. Oh, I'm David Rose.
I watched the first episode, and I remember being quite excited about it. And I didn't want to catch up when I had the audition because I was like, I'm gonna blow this out of proportion for myself and like get in my head about it. The more you want it, the harder the audition is. So I was like, if I can trick myself into not wanting this too much, it will be to my benefit.
Great. Well, here's my card, and I feel like you will need it.
You know what? I think I'm good. What a lot of shows have to worry about in the first season is character. Did we hire the right people? Are they working out? That was never a concern for us, which is a huge luxury. Our cast knew who they were, came in, and sat so firm in those roles. They knew who they were from day one.
Cut. Yeah. Yeah. First scene in the can.
Happy.
Yeah.
First scene.
Boom. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, go ahead. Do it again. Go. Yeah, so as long as you go past the ears,
Yeah.
the camera will sell it.
Okay. After the presentation, and they made the deal with CBC, Eugene and Daniel invited me to lunch.
We started talking about the character.
I thought, oh, rich lady. I don't want to just look like a cliche rich lady. And so I went online and I found Daphne Guinness.
She came to me with some references in terms of how the character would look, and she was thinking of having this sort of accent.
It's even more vicious than Vivian getting trampled while honeymooning in Pamplona.
That's great.
The wigs weren't in it, and the vocabulary wasn't in it. You know, that's what I got to add.
I remember finding it all quite dazzling. Little did I know at the time just how much Catherine brings to the table.
I just asked if I could wear lots of wigs, depending on my mood. It works for fashion reasons. It works for hiding or revealing what I'm feeling. It works as a protective helmet. So it's just too much fun.
Everybody's outfits are incredible. You're making all sorts of top 10 lists, including Vogue's Best Dressed.
Catherine and I do hours and hours of fittings before we start shooting, like hours and hours.
Today's Catherine's second fitting of hopefully 3, likely 4 or 5. Oh, yeah.
It needs a lot of jewelry, Dan.
Yeah, exactly.
It just needs some sparkle.
Wardrobe is probably the most important element in storytelling outside of actually writing, because we as people say so much about who we are and what we believe in and what we want and what we think of ourselves by the way that we dress. Maybe just pull it in a bit. It's better when they're up here, huh?
Yeah. Isn't it?
Yeah. So to me, wardrobe was like a huge focus, making sure that we really thought through each of our characters, making sure that the details were there.
I think that is what's different about Schitt's Creek. It's as though the clothing was thought about at the same time as the character development and everything else. So it's inherent to the show.
Casual, understated.
Going to celebrate that successful banquet.
Exactly.
Money.
My mandate when we started this show was that I wanted the clothes to feel real, and I wanted people who were interested in fashion to be able to recognize pieces and say, like, okay, so this isn't just someone doing Zara, doing Balenciaga. It's like the girl from The Fifth Element put a Dries dress on.
At first I was watching it and I was like, wait, is that McQueen? And I sort of thought it was a wardrobe inspired by these designers. And then I kept looking, I was like, wait, I have that Balenciaga, you know? So then I realized it was the real deal. And I was like, oh, okay, you know, respect.
I found this McQueen dress for $300. and the price tag was on it, and it retails for much, much more than that. I think it got harder season after season because we kept pushing the boundaries of how far we could take our budget. But part of that, I think, is what makes the show what it is. We're really scrappy, and all good things come out of a lot of sort of hard work and sweat and tears.
I think the investment being put into wardrobe was a smart investment because that said so much about who the characters were. You had a whole visual story and a whole way of understanding the characters through the clothing.
The outfits, you become the person when you look in the mirror and you see, oh, that's who she is. And I don't know if Catherine works that way or not, but it sure is wonderful to see what she's going to wear each week.
When you get these kinds of clothes on, you just feel different, you stand differently, you move differently, people look at you differently, and I feed off of all of it.
It's important for us to make sure that when Catherine comes in for her wardrobe fittings, that we are bringing clothes that she can dive into, and I think vice versa, the clothes help inspire her in certain areas to just take that character into new and wonderful directions.
Something like a Marvel hero coming out.
Yeah.
No.
I like this now.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Let's let the actors have the floor now. Rehearsal's coming up.
This scene between the writers and I probably did about 7 drafts. It's really hard to tell the story of a love story that in the end is still a love story. It didn't end because they stopped loving each other. It ended because circumstance stood in their way. And that circumstance was their own growth. And that's a wonderful thing.
Off the mark.
And action.
You can't move back here, Ted. You've just been offered the job of your dreams, and there's no turning back now.
What about you? What are you gonna do?
This might come as a shock to you, Ted, but I can't move to the Galapagos.
I wouldn't let you even if you tried. And I hope you know that I don't think I'm ever gonna find another woman who makes me feel the way that you do.
I love you, Ted.
I love you too. And cut.
You.
Wow. Funny.
It is a sad day on set. When people are emotional at a rehearsal, it means that something's working.
I don't know, it just hit me just now. I was like totally fine before it.
All during the scene, I was fine. Shouldn't have been, was fine, more or less. And then I walked out, and Eugene Levy was standing there with his arms open and his eyes full of tears, and just said, "Annie," and his voice broke, and he hugged me, and I felt his chest like heave a little bit, and I burst into tears immediately and had to just walk it off.
Yeah, it was pretty waterworky back there.
A sad Eugene Levy is, that's a heartbreaker.
This town might just be your saving grace, at least for a while.
I had a bunch of friends who would watch the show, and I thought, how is it going to be good?
I kind of wasn't sure what to expect from the series. I think it started, at least from a point of a kind of recognition of Catherine and Eugene.
I absolutely have loved them ever since SCTV. So I tuned in, you know, just to see what they were up to, and I got hooked.
It's like butter when they work together because they anticipate what the next person is going to do. That's pure chemistry. I'm sure they had that right when they first met each other. It is beautiful to watch.
You can tell they really love each other. They respect each other. They dig each other.
We were always the little engine that could, you know, just doing our show, doing a good job.
Then it just started kind of percolating and crossing the border.
You would see really prominent film critics on Twitter talking about it.
It was really a kind of grassroots word-of-mouth phenomenon.
I slowly got into Schitt's Creek, I feel like around season 2. But it was a show that you would always sort of hear people talk about.
It kind of feels like the show has built in the perfect way. Like nothing happened too soon, and the love that started to come in was really well earned.
I think it's safe to say that the quality of the show just continued to improve, especially in the later seasons. I think everybody across the board became more comfortable in the skin of their characters. The characters themselves became richer, and the storylines that they were able to tell were just a lot more, I think, involving and affecting.
I think you're my best friend.
It takes people time to find things now, but if a show is creative enough, funny enough, caring enough, people start talking about it.
I was just telling everybody, I'd be filling up my car, I'd be like, have you seen Schitt's Creek? It's unbelievable.
I think it's a testament to Dan and Eugene and their desire to force an aesthetic, to force a look of the show.
It was very clear to all involved this was something that, as intended, was pushing the boundaries for what Canadian comedy could be.
Next step is to fold in the cheese.
What does that mean? What does fold in the cheese mean?
He folds it in.
The awareness for the show really picked up. I mean, I saw it everywhere. I saw it in airports, I saw it on the street, and that's when people started talking about the show. Love the show. Hey, love Schitt's Creek. Saw Schitt's Creek the other night, loved it. It was like a tidal wave.
It was one of those shows that felt like a hidden treasure.
It sort of felt like it came out of nowhere.
Really, you heard about it, but you're like, what is it? And then all of a sudden, it's this thing.
You guys met the Nicole Kidman.
Oh my God. I mean, she's a fan of the show. She tagged you guys on Instagram.
The show he's on with his father, which is on Pop TV, is hilarious.
Yes.
I watch it all the time. The cast of one of my favorite shows.
Congratulations, it's a hit.
You know what I love? Schitt's Creek.
I am starstruck and comedy struck. I'm nervous to interview you because I don't want to screw it up.
Schitt's Creek.
Catherine O'Hara.
Schitt's Creek.
I want to take you home.
Oh, well, you can.
You're making all sorts of top 10 lists.
Dan and Eugene Levy are joining me now, finally getting the Emmy love. That's gotta feel good. It's been insane.
Every line's classic. It's so well written, but they take the time to give you the moments between the lines, too. And that's good.
Something wrong, David?
It's the best thing on TV right now.
Our favorite show ever.
We were like fans from day one.
We know every single episode, every single word.
Everyone I meet, I tell them that they have to watch the show.
I love Alexis.
I love David. I have him on my chest.
My whole family watches it, so it's something that we all share.
Every Sunday, we watched from season 1 all the way to season 5.
I flew in from Honolulu, Hawaii to be here. If you're a real fan, you gotta come.
She plays my best friend Stevie Budd on Schitt's Creek.
When we go do our tours, the energy and kind of love you get from the audience, while it's amazing because it's masses of people, but it's also like nothing else because it's so loving and with each other. And I think it's because of what the show puts out there, that goodness begets goodness. It just does. It works that way.
It's like they have found their sisters and brothers, and they are kindred spirits, and they, I don't know, they bring all this love that they feel they've gotten from the show, and they bring it to us like 1,000-fold.
It's hard to describe how passionate these people are about the show.
I'm so used to the internet being like a cesspool of awful news that I'm always sort of inspired and impressed by how the fans of the show have really taken the philosophy of the show and really ran with it in their own lives.
In a time where it was super dark, it kind of came in and filled that void in a lot of ways.
The majority of people, they say it's an escape for them. You can watch it and just laugh, and there's love, and there's empathy, and I can't think of another show that does that.
Maybe everybody just thought they were privately watching by themselves and then suddenly discovered, oh, wait, there's another fan over here and there's another fan. And then, like, all of a sudden we all realized we were fans of the show.
So many times I'm laughing and then I'm crying, like heartbreaking crying, and just loving every aspect of it.
You see a family learn more and more the value of the everyday, of relationships. You know, that's what life is about.
Schitt's Creek is joy. It's the hardest thing to get right, you know? It's the easiest thing to take for granted and the hardest thing to get right.
It makes me happy, and that's what television should do, isn't it?
We're in season 6 and we're ending, and people are like, how can you end when I've just found you?
I think time is going to be very, very good to this show, and it already has been. Just wish it would go longer.
I'm Moira Rose.
Moira Rose has all of the elements of the straight female character who becomes a gay icon. She is over the top. She's always dressed up. She's self-involved.
Nothing about me or my performance.
It's Night of 1,000 Moiras.
We're all here tonight to pay homage to the newest and greatest gay icon, Moira Rose.
I would like all of the Moiras to make their way onto the stage.
This night is so incredible and so cool because there's so many people in our LGBTQ community who love Schitt's Creek and love what they represent.
Put your hands together for the cast of Schitt's Creek.
Getting to see someone who really just owns everything about herself and is so unself-conscious is really beautiful.
I think what's different about Moira than the other kind of outlandish gay characters we've seen is that Moira actually does have a heart of gold and she actually has real substance. And so she feels like a very modern version of a gay icon.
I think the LGBT community has responded so well to Schitt's Creek because it isn't questioned, it isn't a big deal, and that's what makes it so great.
I do drink red wine, but I also drink white wine.
Yeah, so you're just really open to all wines.
I like the wine and not the label. Does that make sense?
I remember reading that and texting Dan and just being like, I fucking love this because it so eloquently and naturally within the scene without it being preachy or anything, it says so much about the message of the show, which is about representation and inclusivity. And I think that is why people are responding to it because it's a tipping point to a certain degree. Enough is enough. We can live this way. Take a look. It also was pretty funny.
I got a tweet from a guy who said that he used the wine metaphor to come out to his family. And I thought that's a pretty amazing thing. That's something you don't think about when you are sitting down to write a television show.
It just would have never occurred to me that it's better to do a show where there is no homophobia than to do a show that speaks to it and talks about how it does. But what a paradigm shift.
I think at the time, writing David as a queer character was something that I just wanted to do. I didn't do it to make a political statement. It was just who he was in my head. And I was shocked by how novel that seemed to people.
I think there was an article that was written that I thought described the show really well, where it said, Schitt's Creek, it's created a better world than we live in.
I remember the gays started really freaking out when Dan and Patrick's relationship took off. There was particularly this one scene where Patrick sings to him, and it's such a beautiful moment because when you see gay relationships on screen and the way that they're often portrayed through a lens of tragedy or strife or struggle, right? It's look at all we had to overcome to love each other, And so it felt like this moment where we got to see ourselves just being in love and being joyful. So I think that scene was a watershed moment in queer representation in television history.
And I think there was something to me, too, that felt very, very truly queer and gay about that moment, because I think the character of David has a kind of gay archness, right? Which is very, it's very familiar, it's kind of campy, and some of that is the result of, even though the show doesn't depict homophobia, it's a life of not seeing yourself. It's a life of not being told you'll get true love. It's a life of not being told that your love matters. And so watching that archness break, I think, was something that could be meaningful to any viewer because it was so beautiful. But I think for people who know that from the inside out, there was something in watching that emotional journey that was like, oh, wow, that's what was so moving to me.
I do feel like when someone who has opposing beliefs sits down in front of their TV and watches, we're not teaching them a lesson. We're showing them what life could be like. And I think that's a really fundamental element. If I were to sort of psychoanalyze the change that's been happening, people feel safe enough to question, are my beliefs outdated? Am I being told to believe something that isn't true? Because I love this character and I want him to succeed. So why am I feeling like he shouldn't, politically or religiously? I think we all just need a safe space to learn at the end of the day. I never learn when I feel like I'm being taught a lesson.
I've never thought the show was laying out any message. It just is. It's just an example of how life can be. And you're laughing. What better way to open someone's heart and soul?
It's a major contribution from Dan and from the writers on the show and from the networks involved. Like, it's to put that positivity out there, that's the thing that we sort of, I think, have come to hang our hats on as a show.
What a day! Happy Pride!
Happy Pride!
That kissing billboard, how important was that for you?
So important. I mean, the fact that we had a network that supported us enough to put up a 3-story billboard of 2 men kissing speaks volumes for the network. And I think it's just a lovely representation of our show. I've driven by it. Noah and I actually went and took a photo in front of it, and it was a really emotional thing. It's like, I've never seen anything like it. And I'm proud to have been a part of that. It's one of the first times I've ever seen that on the side of a building.
That's you on stage at the GLAAD Awards. You were giving Dan Levy a special award for his work in making Schitt's Creek a homophobia-free zone. So what's it been like to be a part of a show that's breaking ground like this? Are you hearing from people?
We all have gotten letters from people who, after watching the show, have felt the courage to come out to their families, or parents who have accepted their kids because after seeing how Johnny and Moira have treated their queer son. So it's been a very, very, very special experience because of that.
This is a letter from a Facebook group called Serendipity Doodah. It's a group of moms with LGBTQ kids, and they have written you a letter to thank you for everything that you've done for their kids and the community that you represent.
Why did... Oh.
Oh my God.
Okay, it's all the names.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh. Can you read the letter?
You want me to read it? Dear Mr. Dan Levy and cast, crew, and writers of Schitt's Creek, we belong to a large private Facebook group called Serendipity Doodah for Moms, home of the Mama Bears. We have more than 5,000 moms in the group, and many of us are working to make the world a kinder, safer, more loving place for all LGBTQ people to live. More than 1,800 of us are signing this letter because we wanted to say thank you for the LGBTQ characters, relationships, and storylines that you've included in Schitt's Creek. Your commitment to represent love and tolerance in your show is so important to families like ours. Your willingness to explore, inform, and educate about LGBTQ people and their relationships in an entertaining but respectful and positive manner sets a tone that is often missing. You have created new ways for queer viewers to see themselves represented, and in its own way, that is just as important as the battles we are still fighting. Therefore, the work you have all done on Schitt's Creek has encouraged us greatly and given us hope about the future for our kids. We sincerely believe that shows like Schitt's Creek will serve as a catalyst to help change the world into a kinder, safer, more loving place for all LGBTQ people to live, and because of that, we will remain forever grateful. You've made a lot of Mama Bears happy, and as a result, you have a whole bunch of fans forever. With sincere gratitude and respect.
Wow. Okay. Well, can I see that? I am very proud of the fact that this show sort of shines like a positive light out there into people's homes. But the fact that people are also experiencing something deeper through the show is, you can't ask for anything better. It's wonderful.
It's really crazy. I was down at that end. Now you guys are down at that end.
Like life, when you know that there's an end to it, it makes the in-between feel meaningful, and you feel like you got to make the most of it.
Did David say something to upset you? He can be cruel, but it's all fear-based, dear, so please don't take it personally.
No, I just realized that this is like the last time we're all gonna be here like this. Not only is it incredible to have a job, but it's incredible to have a job on a show that I love and that has affected the lives of other people in such a big way.
I've never liked to smile as much as I like yours. I've never felt as safe as I do when I'm with you. I've never felt love like I do when we're together.
But knowing that you'll always be waiting, I can't read it.
It hits me in waves that it's the end. We don't watch each other shoot every scene, but in the table read, when you read the script, you're there to watch every character do their scene. That was killer.
All right, driver. We're ready. We watch the car continue down the road and into the distance. End of series.
Has it hit me yet? I think so. I feel like I've processed it thoroughly and properly. But who knows? Who knows what the day will bring?
I think it must have been a really hard decision to call this one quits, but I can't help thinking that it's somehow it's right.
I am perpetually impressed by the grace of our fans, because while they were quite upset and saddened by the news, there was this positive sentiment of like, we understand.
To have something to look forward to is what I had for 6 years. I knew that for a few months, I was gonna get to go to work and feel joy.
Yes, last day. Last sad day. I'm sure it will hit me in our last scene on our last day when we actually leave the kids and the motel. And in a major way, it probably will hit me 2 or 3 weeks after we stop shooting, when I finally sit back and say, oh my God, what have we done? Why is it ending?
Happy last day.
It's gonna be a really hard goodbye, and I've tried to just kind of compartmentalize the extreme sadness that I know I'm gonna feel and the extreme void in my life. This has been a constant for 6 years, and that's not gonna be there anymore. So that's tough, but the friendships that I have made are so special. And I'm gonna be inviting myself over to Catherine O'Hara's house for dinner for years to come.
Cut. Let us check that.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, she's the best sister ever. That's a series wrap, a Schitt's Creek wrap on Annie Murphy.
I am proud of all of the people that helped create her and helped create the show. And oh, I didn't think this was gonna happen.
3, 2, 1.
The show has definitely created a family. Everyone is so respectful of each other, and that tone was set really early on. Inclusion and respect and warmth and friendship, and it's just been this amazing group of people that have so much fun together.
Oh, Chris.
Love you.
I'll miss
Thank
getting
you
to
so
see you
much.
this much.
I will miss seeing
Aw.
you. Thank you so much.
There is just this extra nice, lovely layer of gratitude and appreciation for what it is that we're doing.
Faster. It was an incredibly welcoming place to be, from the read-throughs to costume fittings to my first day on set.
That's also a series wrap for Daniel Levy.
Wow. Yeah, you're both brilliant.
I feel like so grateful that I got to be part of something that I think is forever and is special and made a made a mark.
The whole experience has been, it's just been magical. It doesn't feel like 6 years.
I think you feel the impact of the show ending more significantly because of how much people love it.
There has been a love that has been offered with the show that people feel, and they've given it back to us in an incredible amount. We feel it. We feel it.
It's so special that it's become this little phenomenon that was born in our family. I think that's the trippiest part of it all, is that this is my family.
I think mainly I'll miss just coming to work every day with these people. We've had the greatest crew, many of whom were with us from the very beginning, a great cast of characters, and the opportunity of having had a chance to work with Sarah and Daniel on this.
It's something that I'll never get the opportunity to do again, and I do not take for granted one day that I've been so lucky to be able to work with my family.
I don't know. A lot. I'll miss a lot. I do this thing when I cry where I snort. It sounds like a warthog. I'll miss a lot of everything.
I think it'll all come together in just a giant cry at some point, but I can't pinpoint exactly what that day will be. But I'll call you. I feel good about the fact that this will end on a beautiful high. And yeah, it is sad, but it was 6 beautiful years working with some really, really beautiful people.
Yes, I'm crying. That's terrible. Stop.
It's just it's like a family. So it's hard to say goodbye.
And that town you passed through, it's not called Schittsville. It's called Schitt's Creek. And it's where we live.
It's an amazing thing to have a chapter of our lives documented like this, and to be able to go back and look at it when we're all old and crusty and say, like, well, we had this.
There is a hole that's inside of my chest, in a place so I hide in the shade.